That is Billy over his head? Now, before everybody freaks out, I hear this a lot, and I wanted to figure out exactly what are we looking for here? What are we trying to say when we're saying Billy's over his head? I don't know if you ever recall, but I had Uncle Lou, and I kind of pressed him with that question. What do you mean by that? I'm a visual guy. I like to see things. When I talk at work or I'm trying to show something, I like to draw on the board to show exactly what I'm trying to decipher what's going up in this noggin up here. That's how I function. I function a lot better. When you can see something, you can break it down a little bit more. Or if you can talk in visualization, it helps it digest it more than just saying fun, kind of one-liner saying Billy's in over his head. What do you mean by Billy is in over his head? He's a head coach. He coaches football. What are we talking about? And I think I got a good idea and a good concept of where people are saying when he's in over his head. And I think we saw a little bit of that this weekend. Billy's from the Sun Belt. And when you're coaching the Sun Belt, you're working with 1, 2, 3-star athletes. They're 1 to 2, 3-star athletes for a couple of reasons. One, more likely their size. They just don't have the size or the ability, the athletic ability to play in D1 division football. Others going to be just the knowledge of the game, the talent level they played with, right? All those things combined. So when I started to kind of unpack that, I was talking with somebody today, and he mentioned he was speaking to another person that's involved with football heavily. And when Billy first came on, he said Billy's in over his head. And they're like, "Wow, why would you say that?" And now that we're back to that person, so what did you mean when you said that? And it comes down to talent. And again, this is where I saw this weekend. Working with 2, 3-star guys, talented guys. When you start recruiting 4 or 5-star recruits and top-tier SEC talented of guys that come into this, and you're trying to convey the same type of play style or convey the same style of management, it's 2 different levels, 2 different talented young men. So you're trying to, and again, the whole concept is you got to be 10 steps ahead of these young men. You've got to be challenging them, pressing them, pushing them, making them feel uncomfortable day in and day out so they can be confident and comfortable when they're in between the white lines on game day in the war zone ready to rock and roll. If you don't have that ability because you haven't had to press yourself to go beyond that level and pressure players to that and push your players to that level 10 or level 11, you don't know how to get there. You're in over your head, essentially. You've been working with 2 to 3-star guys. Your plan and your process works perfectly for those guys because it's pressing for those young men. But you can't take that same style, that same mentality, and apply it to 4 and 5-star athletes. They'll gobble it whole. They'll digest it and okay, I want more. Well, when you can't give them more, they start to get complacent. And what we saw on the field on Saturday, in my opinion, was a lack of confidence and a lack of energy. The lack of confidence comes from because when they hit the football field and they get punched in the mouth, they go, whoa, we're well behind the 8 ball. Like, what's going on here? And they lose all confidence in the ability to go out there and be the athlete that they are because the argument is we have the talent. Why aren't they utilizing it? And again, this is kind of where my head's at where, again, the Billy conversation is in over his head. I think he has a good process. I think he's applying the right things, but I think this goes back to putting maybe a different type of talent around him because the people he brought in, mind you, came from the same school. It's just carbon copy, boom, boom, except Rob Sale came from New York. He was coaching at New York currently, which I don't think there's been much of a transition. Maybe that's why he does not have a recruit. But that to me was kind of my, best analogy that I could put together in the sense describing when people say he's over his head. This was the first time that I kind of took a step back and go, look, it kind of makes sense. And the reason why I'm starting to maybe look at that more so is because of what we saw on Saturday, the production that was placed on the field on Saturday afternoon. It just, again, we felt way behind the 8 ball. I'm still holding on to how we looked like on Saturday against Tennessee. We had moments of flashes because I think these kids are, they're talented. They have the ability to be great. They just haven't been given the tools or been being pushed enough. They need to be uncomfortable. And we go back to that Swamp Kings thing. I know obviously we're being nostalgia here, but just that is making somebody uncomfortable. That, like, just walking in at 2 o'clock in the morning, working out. You've got guys beating each other up. You've got guys doing just the ab exercise, and if a guy shows in late, they're getting their ass kicked. They're doing the wrestling drills. All these things run in stadiums at 5 o'clock in the morning. All these things are just making everybody uncomfortable and not wanting to be there. When you make somebody uncomfortable, that's by the time you're ready to rock and roll, you're locked and loaded. I've started watching Band of Brothers on HBO. That's another great point. Is just watch the beginning of them getting prepared for war. The group that they're focused on is treated like absolute dog shit. Well, if you create this mindset and you keep pushing and pushing and pushing, when you are set up against war, it's easy. I don't feel like we're doing that. We're just doing just enough to get ready. And again, it showed on Saturday.